I'd like to introduce Phil Meis, who's going to be talking about a recommended policy change for all urban projects. Thank you, Phil.
Great. I'm between lunch, so trying to be fast and furious. Kind of morphed my talk a little bit, here in the discussions this morning. So I will try to be a little bit loose. Won't quite adhere to my slides as much, but I think I'll get the point across. So I'm vice chair of the Utility Risk Management Division, which is a division of the Utility Engineering and Surveying Institute. And actually grew over there as the chair. And we've got Mike over here. Mike's company is heavily involved also with it. ASCE has done a lot of effort, both with their Utility Engineering Surveying Institute, which was formed just a couple of years ago to specifically address utilities, and the Construction Institute to address problems with utilities. So I want to basically just touch that there are standards that we developed and technology and practices to really address mapping utility infrastructure for project development and for life cycle, for management of the infrastructure, once it's in the ground for operations and maintenance, for damage prevention, things like that. There's tremendous value that's reaped by doing this. And there's agencies now implementing cradle and grave solutions, so kind of similar to what you saw in Flanders right now. Utilities are they're the leading cause for project delays and damages and claims on projects. In fact, I just heard a talk about a month ago at the Light Rail Conference in Jersey City, and on an $800 million light rail project in Melbourne, Australia. For a multi-billion-dollar project in Melbourne, there's an $800 million claim going on with utilities. So I mean that's a big issue. It's a worldwide problem. So ASCE is basically the Construction Institute and the Utility Engineering Surveying Institute got together, and actually we started out of the Construction Institute, to come up with practices that would mitigate costs and save lives and save money and time. And basically the idea is to take the risk back from, when you push the risk to the contractors, they inherently will put about a 10% contingency in their bid to deal with the issues. And if we can deal with it up front, and similar to practices what Drew is doing with his design work, we can achieve huge return on investment. And I think Alan alluded to that. This is a great example. This is 2015, so this is only 4 years ago, and this is a great example of a 3D project where we used ASCE 38 to collect information. I just want to run through that. The project reaped huge benefit. One of the contractors that saw this information, so we used ASCE 38 to collect the data, do all the conflict analysis, and this is data that's collected by professionals. Mike's going to talk about ASCE 38 in more depth, so I'm going to stay at a high level. But the bottom line is, you implement the standard, and the contractors looked at it and we go, "Oh, this is the best bid package you've ever seen." We had that stated. The bids came in 10% below the engineer's estimate. This is a high-pressure gas main along a 1-mile corridor in Lacey, Washington. What was very impressive is that the bid, even the contractors didn't realize what they had here. And so they still billed the work with 2 crews and 10 weeks to do the work. Well, when they got out there, they were laying 300 feet of pipe a night because the information was all figured out ahead of time. The risk was out of it. Everything was exactly, they're building exactly how it was designed in 3D. And so they built it in 7 weeks with 1 crew. Now, you do the math on that. I mean, it's incredible. There were no damages, no change orders. That was another first, and no delays. And it was built as designed when we were done. So, 38 is a tremendous standard. It elevates the effort to a professional level, instead of the willy-nilly effort that was done in the past. Now, what's interesting is we need policy change because my timer's on, I'm sorry. So the state of Colorado actually, this has been adopted as a best practice around the country, but the state of Colorado, just in August, they passed the Senate Bill 18167. They've actually made it a law now. So they require ASCE 38 on all project development. Again, as I mentioned, Mike will talk about this a little later, but it's rocking around. It's going to keep me on timer. So anyway, but the difference there with ASCE 38 is it makes it a PE professional engineer certifies the product. And that's because there's a lot of you're dealing with disparate data. You're dealing with public welfare and protection of the public, and the statutes are really well established for professional engineering to protect the public against malpractice and wannabes or trends. Now I want to talk about, there's two standards that I want to mention here. ASCE 38 is one of them, and that resolves the symptoms of having bad data. I mean, bad record data. Nobody has good record. I mean, there are some now evolving, and some of the gas companies are better, and maybe some water companies are better. But bottom line is there was a lack of a standard for as building, so ASCE 38 was developed to address that. This new standard that I'm chair of is a standard guideline for recording and exchanging utility infrastructure data, an as-built standard. So that we've got the DoD involved, we've got the FHWA, Federal Aviation, we've got NOAA, we have Vermeer, Kiewit, Bentley, and Esri, and a number of players involved. And it's really a nice little standard, and OGC has adopted the standard as part of the Muddy effort. Hey, Muddy's. But so I want to keep going along here, but the idea is to get from where we're having to go out and dig things up to find it, to where we keep track of it when it goes in the ground the first place. A novel idea here. The other advantage of this, it might be better as a drawing it. We want to go from 2D to 3D. Okay, so the standard, the as-built standard, addresses how much data you need to collect to go from here to here. Now everybody can look at this and understand what's going on, right? You don't have to be an engineer. You don't have to be and what's great about this is now it's easy to you put your Google glasses on, you go out and see the stuff. I think you mentioned that. Wouldn't it be great to be able to go out and see this stuff as for damage or for emergency response if you had that kind of data. So with us, without us, with us, with a Tom Cruise movie. Anyway, so the new standard for recording and exchanging infrastructure, it standardizes how the data is recorded. It's going to make effective exchange among the stakeholders. We're, by the way, it's been 6 years in development now, so we're just in the final balloting of it right now. It enables all the VDC things we want to do. It's going to, obviously, as we've been talking about, there's all kinds of benefits. What's going on here is the discussion is really exciting to me because you guys are going to leverage the data. So this is just kind of, I was just showing some of the technologies. One thing that we're doing right now, too, that we couldn't do 5 years ago is by using special geophysical methods, we can basically enable, what CT scans and MRIs did for laparoscopic surgery. That's what we're doing for engineering. We can visualize these things now. But the key is, and ASC is trying to address that, is you have to have qualified people doing this work to collect that data and to interpret that data. It's not something that's you can just hand off to anybody and let them do it. You have to make sure you have pre-qualified people doing this. It's just like a radiologist. You don't want a technician to analyze that information and create a model out of it. So we can do things. This multi-channel radar. Like I say, you can create tomographic images, which is basically looking at as you go through time slices in depth. This is showing how we're following a pipeline along in the radar here. Yeah, I'm just going to keep going here. And this is a project hot off the press. It was just done this fall, and this is in Helena, Montana. It was funded by the Strategic Highway Research Program, which is a national research, national science foundation funded effort. And it's just to show how we could collect data and build 3D models, and it's really not that difficult to do with the information. And this is another project here that was done. This is the LAX. That was this model went into the bid package. Now the key is, and also we're using LiDAR and things like that. So I'm going to just kind of now what you have to understand when you bring utility data together to build a model. It's not a trivial effort. You're going to have to disparate information, and it's going to be a work in progress, and it's dynamic. So people are constructing. You're going to get more data. And so you have to basically manage in a data-centric environment, and I think that's what we're talking about here, and build your models. But also, you have to implement the as-building so that you're keeping your data current, because it's changing as you go along. People are, construction is going to be changing things. One of our major contractors said 70% of their strikes are on infrastructure that they actually install themselves. So, okay. So anyway, just to kind of highlight also, this is hot off the press. You know, the Honolulu light rail project. What we can do with the data too is we can not only identify the known infrastructure, but we're identifying a lot more unknown infrastructure, and having all this information up front makes the project go a lot faster. These are just stats showing it. Alan, I haven't shared these with you yet. We just got these. But some more value, you know, it's one of the challenges is going to be, how do you document stuff that didn't happen because you had this data? I mean, that's how are you going to get the value or show the value of doing this when things don't happen because you had this data. So we'll have to figure that out. Now, one of the things that happens right now is this information. When you push the risk to contractors, the bid languages are wrong right now, because I mean, most projects like light rail, they're pushing all the risk to the contractor. They're letting the contractor deal with it. We're doing a potholing campaign, which basically they go through a hole every 25 feet and digging everything up. And it's not written to incorporate this data early and actually include it in the project development. So we're not getting the value out of that. There's a problem because people administering these contracts don't care. They think it's a utility problem. You know, it's not their problem. Well, you know, it is their problem because it's their project and it's going to affect all the public. So, and then they think the utility should have this data. Well, we don't, and because we didn't have a standard, and they think it's a contractor role. We've had prior bad experience, you know, with doing this, you know, with radar and things like that. But again, the technology is advanced. But the keys are having good pre-quals and good bid languages and things, all these things. So, again, what we have to do is basically evolve our projects so that when a transit, light rail, you know, get data, get it leveraged for the project, get value of that, keep that data, implement as building, and keep that data current so that you have it for operations and maintenance going forward. That's basically the key out of all this. And so this is kind of the wheel here, summarizing what I just blathered to you here in about 10 minutes. So if you have a question, go ahead. Oh, sure. All right.
So one question that came up is, are you now providing contractors a CAD model as part of the bid package?
Yes. Actually, we provide a 3D BIM model. I mean, that's obviously the best thing is a 3D CAD model that can be pushed into a building infrastructure management system, and then they can build it all in a virtual sense and understand where the risk is and how they're going to stage things. And you know, working with utility infrastructure just opens up. I mean, there's a lot of pitfalls in it if you have that information.
Terrific. Well, thank you very much.
All right.